Good morning, everyone. I am Councilman Paris Gray. I will be acting as chairperson for the Budget and Appropriations Committee for the first 30 or so minutes, and I represent Council 8. At this moment, I'm going to tell you guys to all turn off your cell phones and any of your communication devices. Also, joining me today is City Council President Zeke Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And we have any committee. And we also have from the 1st District, Councilman Mark Parker. From the 4th District, we have Councilman Mark Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
From the 14th District, we have Councilwoman Odette Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And from the 11th District, we have Councilman Zach Blanchard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And we also have several representatives from the Mayor's Office, the City Council President's Office. And today, Council Bill 250060, Ordinance of Estimates for the fiscal year ending in June 30th, 2026. This is day 5 of agency budget hearings for the purposes of providing appropriations estimated to be needed by each agency of the City of Baltimore for operating programs and capital projects during the fiscal year 2026, effective July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Today, we, as we have for all the hearings, we have a change in committee rules. All council members will be able to ask questions. Also, listening to the listening audience, there will be no public testimony during these hearings. Before we start with our agency presentation, I just want to give the floor to our Council President, Council President Zeke Cohen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I would, if at your discretion, if it's all right with you, could we start with Dr. Brooks and then jump in from there? Appreciate everyone being here. Thank you for chairing this hearing. Thank you to all of our colleagues. But want to hear from our invited guest.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Council President Cohen and committee members. I am Dr. Brooks, the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, and here with me today is Ms. Janelle Penny, the Chief of Staff of the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, Lachey Ferguson, Deputy Director of Operations, Christina Gilchrist, the Director of Communications and Engagement, Angela Whitaker, Director of the Community Action Partnerships, which is our CAP centers, Dante Franklin, Deputy Director of CAP, Roger Moore, the Office of Home Energy Programs, or OHEP, Shannon Barrows Campbell, Director of Public Programs, our Head Starts, Baltimore City Head Start programs, Sam Hamley, who is our agency IT manager, and also Penny Lewis, who is our manager of Water for All. We also have Andrea Curley, who is our community engagement manager. Over the past year, the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success has remained unwavering in our mission to uplift and support Baltimore families, especially those facing the greatest challenges. In the face of economic uncertainty, staffing limitations, and growing community needs, we continue to show up for our residents with compassion, innovation, and purpose. We are proud to provide critical rental assistance to over 1,100 households, including 673 families, through our emergency rental assistance portal, which we reopened uniquely by our agency to meet ongoing housing crisis. I want to emphasize that we were the only in the state of Maryland to reopen the portal to be able to support our residents here in Baltimore City. Additionally, 128 families received security deposit supports, also helping them to move to stable and secure homes. As families across our city continue to struggle with utility burdens, we have delivered relief for over 26,000 residents receiving energy assistance in more than 5,100 households, the majority of them being homeowners. We supported through our Water for All programs as well. Despite staffing challenges, our Office of Home Energy Programs, or OHEP, has served over 3,700 families while launching a paperless process system to enhance speed, accuracy, and transparency. We deepened our investments in our safety of our young people and developed the first ever Safe Passage Initiative and reached over 10,000 students across 12 schools this school year in collaboration with Baltimore City Public Schools and BPD and our community-based organizations, creating safer communities as well as connecting young people to caring adults and positive programming. Through our interagency coordinated response to youth violence, we provided intensive support to 20 young people and 12 families, delivering services that range from mental health care, educational support, relocation, as well as energy assistance and water assistance. And I want to pause there because today is the graduation for Reginald F. Lewis, one of the young people that we were able to support through intensive case management, through the support of MOHS, the police department, state's attorney's office, the health department, city schools. We're able to support this young person with walking across the stage today, and we have staff there also to encourage this young person. Our Head Start programs continue to prioritize child and family well-being by updating safety protocols and delivering high-impact early learning experiences and wraparound supports for their families. This year's Leadership Summit, which empowered young ladies, helped over 100 young women build confidence and access mental health services, mentoring programs, and employment opportunities. Our back-to-school kickoff distributed over 3,300 backpacks, served over 4,000 meals, and connected families to nearly 100 community service providers to help students kick off a wonderful school year. But I want to say, we know the power of listening through intentional community engagement and partnership. We partner with so many agencies. You heard me talk about MOHS, the police department, city schools, but also the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services, MOCA through community engagement, MEMA, which we partner with almost every day, as well as the Mayor's Office of Older Adults. I know I'm saying it wrong, so I do apologize. DCHD, Rec and Park, DJS, DSS, Pratt, the State's Attorney's Office, MONSE, but most importantly, our community-based organizations in our communities. We listen. We make sure that we're implementing those resources and services that they ask us for. I was especially moved by a recent message from a resident who shared their experience with us. They shared and they said that Jasmine has helped in every step of the way to ensure that their energy service was restored, and they just wanted to show the gratitude. So I just wanted to share some of those highlights of 2025, and as we move forward to 2026 to continue to provide those resources. And now I will share our PowerPoint. So do I just click it? Is it ready? There we go. So here's our organizational chart. Service 109 is administration, Service 605 is Head Start, and Service 741 is our CAP Center. Again, we came together as a leadership team to really begin to focus on what our mission is, and we did tweak our mission. So our mission statement is, at the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, our mission is to drive transformative change in the city of Baltimore by using a 3-generation approach to deliver comprehensive services that pave the way for the success of Baltimore's children and family. And so we really focus on a 3-generation approach so that we are making sure that we are creating whole families and supports. And our goals are to provide robust youth engagement programming, reimagine the supports and resources provided at our Head Start programs, and increase access to essential services that promotes economic stability and fosters community engagement. And we do that by removing barriers. So in our administration, some of the major operating highlights is that we transferred over $250,000 from our general funds to be able to support Staffing and services at our community action partnerships, as we know that many of those federal grants and state grants have either remained flat, but we want to make sure that we're still able to provide the same level of resources and services for our families, as well as funding $90,000 to support position reclassifications throughout the services so that we are continuing to provide those services. Also making sure that we're still able to fund our summer supplemental nutritional assistance program, SNAPs, to provide students and young people with summer food. Next is Head Start. And here with Head Start, a major budget highlight is transferring our fiscal supervisor from our administrative general fund to 100% being funded on the Head Start program funding because they are 100% supporting the Head Start program. And then our community action partnership. Again, you heard me talk about transferring funds from the general fund to be able to support those resources and services and staff at our CAP centers, and then also reducing funding from our subscriptions and building security based on actual costs, as well as ensuring an overall $4.1 million decrease in our state and federal funds for services based on anticipated grant awards. This includes us abolishing 24 vacant grants so that we can continue to keep those same level of resources and services for our families. And at this time, we're ready to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Brooks. We are actually going to have each agency do their presentation, and then we'll do all the questions together. Thank you so much. Next, we're going to have MOHS, Dr. Bunley.
Good morning, can you hear me? Good morning, Mr. Chair, Council President Z. Cohen, all of the other members of this august body. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to share this morning. I want to get right to the slides. It's not a whole lot. I want to acknowledge Chief Operating Officer Tracy Estep, who was here with me this morning. I'm excited this morning because we're making progress in a way that I think that is very, very important. And I just want to start off by just thanking the mayor for his commitment to what is happening with the work. He's given us a healthy dose of about $500,000 for the office as we continue to move forward. And so I want to thank Mayor Scott for that. But to get right to the business in terms of the vision of where we have to go, and Ms. Estep, if I get an opportunity to allude to the data, she will just have a few comments. But our work now has to be about massive collaboration. And I want to thank my colleague, Dr. Deborah Brooks, because there's a group of us who are, and that's all of us across agencies, but her voice has been in my ear about how we have to collaborate. And I learned this term early on from Mr. Millard over at the Family League about braiding resources. It's a real concept. And when you have a city, and in this case we're strapped with resources, we have to collaborate. And so we have at the end of this month, we had we were without our funds. Deputy Mayor Merrill, I shared with him that we didn't have funds, and he pushed and found a way to try to move this process forward of us getting funds. We didn't have an opportunity to incentivize young people who had done the work. And Dr. Brooks just came up and said, no, Dr. Bunley, we're not gonna not incentivize those young people. And so at the end of the month, the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, MOAIM, and a community partner, we're taking those children on a college tour, right? That's what we're talking about. And so now when we look at what's happening in our city with our young people, we have to come together. So we had a meeting with Monzi. They have a beautiful sidestep program. Want to look at how we can bring those youngsters into our program this summer. We take 50 young people every summer to Coppin State University. We're looking to open up 5 spaces for youngsters who have been diverted who are coming to the sidestep program. So the bottom line is this for us, is that we know based on the work and getting close to these young people, we have to do that because of their brain development, and I'll close with this. Excuse me. This is what we're seeing on the ground. Because of our children's brain development, if we allow them to be anonymous, think they're anonymous, then they're gonna think they're invisible, and they're gonna have irrational invincibility. And that's what we're saying. But when you know them, and the council president knows this as a teacher, when you know them by their need and by their name, it changes the whole game. And in our city, we cannot allow our children to remain anonymous. We talked about that, Councilman Conway, the other night as we were collaborating with the state's attorney's office. When you know them by need, and you saw we had 30 young people there, right? But we know them all by name and need. And consequently, they are doing well. So if we can do it for 30 children, we can do it for 300 children, we could do it for 3,000 children. We just have to be professionals who can replicate effective strategy. And so that's what we're doing. I'm just excited. I thank all of you for pushing, Councilman Gray pushing in terms of getting us the funding that we need to continue to do the work. We have opportunities to raise money, both Ms. Eastep and myself. And so I don't know if you want to Tracy, if you want to just do a comment about our data, the impact that we've shown with the work, please do so.
Good morning. So MOAIM is currently working with 100.
Sorry, Ms. Eastep, can you just introduce yourself?
Sure, Tracy Eastep, Chief of Operations for the Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement. So we're currently working with 162 individuals, 140 of which are between the ages of 18 and 24. 76 are school age, 85 are non-school age. We have, for FY25, met or exceeded the goals that are stated for employment, participation, and engaged in school and job readiness. If you look at the actuals for FY24, you see that MOAIM was 1% short, and that's because when we did the calculations for the number of individuals who were re-enrolled in school who had 2 or more jobs were not counted into that percentage. So once we go back and we calculate those totals, MOAIM would have actually exceeded that performance measure. So in working with the 162, we are working with individuals who are over the age of 24, which we do not report to our Family League partner, but we can report that those individuals are on a pathway of success. Some are gainfully employed and have been employed for more than 2 years. And then some who fall off, we go back and we assist them and re-engage them to get back on their pathway of success.
Thank you, Ms. Eastep.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Council President, and I guess we'll follow the protocol.
Thank you, Dr. Bunley. Now we're going to have Mr. Millard from Family League.
Mr. Chair, Mr. President, members of the committee, Damon Millard, CEO of Family League of Baltimore. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you this morning. Family League serves in a role as the local management board for the city of Baltimore. There is one entity within each jurisdiction within the state of Maryland that provides support for children, family, youth, and programming. As Dr. Bunley stated earlier about the aspect of braiding funds, our role is to actually braid dollars at the federal, state, local, as well as private level to support children and family youth programming. Family League has done this through the Cradle to Career Continuum. With our partnership with the Baltimore City Health Department, we have been one of the founding lead agencies in supporting the Be More for Healthy Babies initiative, in which we help facilitate the home visiting programs as a part of the evidence-based model, Healthy Families America. Right now, we've been able to reach out to 200 families with maternal and child health home visiting support. Since the advent and the establishment of the Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement in 2019, Family League has granted $610,000 to support the Credible Mentors program, which also provided support for the squeegee youth. We've also been able to leverage support at the state level through the Governor's Office of Children's Cabinet Interagency Funds, as well as to support the Safe Passages program, $525,000, to making sure that students have a safe route to school, as well as after the school bell. The majority of our work is really centered as well in terms of supporting after-school programs and out-of-school time, and making sure that there are quality out-of-school programs within every single community school. Historically, and as you heard from the school district yesterday, the Kerwin Blueprint for Maryland's Future has allowed this local education agency to be the lead in terms of administering the community school program, of which Family League has done for years with the mayor's and city council dollars. We've been able to bridge that right now to really focus on making sure that every single school within the school district have a high quality after school program. Right now, we have been able to leverage that from 51 to 69 schools within the school district. And our focus is making sure that even more high schools have access to high quality after school programming. Within that, I think we have some slides available. I'm not sure. All right. That's the, there we go. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, the main service areas that we receive support from the city is Service Area 385A, which is the maternal and child health home visiting support with the health department, as well as service number 446, which is what we utilize to help support the educational components. I want to acknowledge members of my team who are here, Senior Directors for Community Impact, Janae Tucker, as well as Melissa Moore, who support these programs and working closely with the health department as well as the Baltimore City School District. Our mission has basically been very simple, working to dismantle systemic impacts on families and communities. Our focus and goals for 2026 has been primarily centered on our strategic plan, Transformation 2024, which is about strengthening the perinatal health system with the health department. And then also goal number 2 in designing a youth development strategy that is more comprehensive, that's not looking just at after school, but also summer programming as well, and being innovative in that approach. And then also lastly, to finish up a lot of the work that we do and have done as a part of our community health needs assessment, in which we partner with Morgan State University's Community Health School and Policy, led by Dr. Dean Sidnor and co-principal investigator, Dr. Lawrence Brown. For service number 385, with the home visiting supports, we have basically been able to focus in terms of making sure that all young people who are a part of those home visiting programs, the partners that we work with, is the Family Tree, Sinai Hospital, Drew Mondawmin Family Services, Roberta's House, as well as Baltimore Healthy Start. We have seen in terms of steady progress in meeting and exceeding our goals, making sure that each of the young people receive social and emotional learning and as well as screening. And so we've seen that basically stay steady at 92%. And so we anticipate in terms of reaching and meeting that goal. Secondly is the being developmentally on track for self-regulation as well as social and emotional wellness. And also we've seen a steady progress in terms of meeting those needs, specifically within that footprint of the caseloads for those maternal and child health home visiting programs. And then also lastly is just making sure that the numbers of unduplicated families are being served. So we're looking at 290 was our target for fiscal year 25. Currently at the mid-year report, we were at 278, so we anticipate exceeding that target for this upcoming fiscal year. And lastly, the educational support, which I spoke about earlier in terms of out-of-school time supports. So we anticipate our target is for 6,400 families, in terms of students and seats that we're supporting for out-of-school programming. Looking at average daily attendance reaching about 80%. Our aim has always been, in terms of evidence-based practices, is that for students who are actually active and participating in out-of-school time programs, more than likely you're not going to face a lot of the challenges that you see as it relates to chronic absence. And so lastly, the number of participants in those programs, at least 62% that we're anticipating when not having issues and challenges with chronic absence. So that concludes my side deck for our performance measures, and I'm available for any questions that the council and committee might have. Thank you.
Thank you. President Cohen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to all three of our agency leaders and to all the folks doing this work. Look, this is what it looks like when a city is united behind its children. I am really proud to be part of a council that has consistently advocated for the interests of our kids and our older adults. You mentioned that office as well. All my colleagues who are up here right now are parents. We know it personally, both the joys and the struggles. And the thing that the chair constantly reminds me, our chair who is not here at the moment, is that you don't have to be someone's blood parent to love our children. And we know, Doc, that we are a village in this city and that we have so many adults in the last couple of years that have stepped up on behalf of our kids and fought for them, loved on them, done what was needed to be done. And I do want to specifically lift up Mayor Scott because this is an area where Brandon Scott has been 10 toes down, crystal clear about his commitment to our young people. And I just have to go back to the Squeegee Collaborative. And this was a issue that had been plaguing our city for years and years and years, and no one knew what to do about it. And there was so much outcry and there was so much hostility. And what I loved about what Mayor Scott did was, to Doc's point, he said this needs to be collaborative. We need to bring everybody together. We need to show up as a city, not to demonize our kids, not to criminalize our kids, but to show them that there is a better way than running in and out of the street and begging people for cash in exchange for a squeegee, that we have more respect for our children than that. And that there would be accountability, that the behavior is not good, and so there will be an accountability element. But what he did not do, and what I know there were a lot of people that wanted him to do, was just criminalize the kids, throw them into a jail cell, and say you can't be on our streets. The mayor made sure, through the work of Dr. Bunley, through the work of the private sector, the hotels, all the different groups that pitched in, Dr. Brooks, all of us, that this was a citywide effort to lift our kids up instead of just pushing them further down into poverty and criminalization of a behavior that we don't like. And to me, it is just folks don't really talk about it anymore because now there's not as big a problem. It doesn't get on the news. But to me, it was a major success, and it showed the commitment of our mayor, several council members on this committee, and just the entire way that we as a city move. And I do see some backsliding, Doc, We know that we need to double down on that effort. I'm starting to see some young people back on the corners, and so I know that your team is going to be back out there. But again, I just think it was such a beautiful effort by all of the parties to deal with an issue and to do it, like the mayor says, the right way instead of just further harming our kids. I want to ask specifically about the youth fund. And I'll say this, I think that there's some concerns right now about the intent and the use of the Children and Youth Fund. And specifically, there were two instances where the funds were utilized by the mayor's office in order to shore up a funding gap. I believe the first one had to do with Youth Works summer programming, and the second one was the summer collaborative. And council members, myself, expressed concerns about both the intent of the law and then the law itself, because I was there with Mayor Scott when we wrote the legislation for the Children and Youth Fund, and what we were seeking to do was to support additional efforts, community-based organizations, leaders within our community that were going above and beyond and that had not been able to access the funding. And so this idea that city government, particularly the mayor's office, could then come whenever there's a shortfall and utilize the funds, I think felt deeply inappropriate to several members of this council. So I wanted to just begin with that. And I looked back and I pulled up the legislation and, specifically on the limitations of use. One of the things it says is that the Children and Youth Fund may not be used to substitute for or replace funding for children and youth programs or services provided in the Ordinance of Estimates for fiscal year 2017, except to the extent that federal, state, or private agency funds for those programs or services have since been discontinued. And so the thing that I find perplexing is, one, we're not in 2017. And so I don't even understand how this provision applies anymore. But second, just the decision-making that went into utilizing these funds. I think it is really important when we have a public fund like the youth fund that we all know the rules of the road and that we're operating off the same playbook, and that when we make decisions that they're done in public with consultation with community, with consultation with the council. And in both of these instances, I don't believe that happened. And so, Director Brooks, I have enormous respect for the work that you've been doing in our city, but I want to understand why this decision was made to utilize the youth fund in this way.
Council President, I'm happy to jump in, just noting that Dr. Brooks and her team was not party to making that decision. So I think Deputy Mayor Merrill and I can help to provide responses to your questions on this front. So first, in regards to the ordinance establishing the Children and Youth Fund. So what it states is that the funding level for youth-related programs in fiscal 2017, we can't use Children and Youth Fund proceeds to backfill what we were funding previously. Right. And so in the fiscal 26 budget, what we are doing is proposing to utilize a portion of the Children and Youth League or Children and Youth Fund to help fund the Youth Works program. And we'll be talking more about that as part of the MOED budget hearing, which is slated for tomorrow. So what you see here in the educational grants budget in terms of the appropriation for the Children and Youth Fund is their planned expenditures for that organization, as well as their planned grant making as we look to fiscal 26.
I guess I'm confused because as I recall, a couple of months ago, there was a announcement, I read in a press release the day we had a hearing on the youth fund, that the money had been moved already to YouthWorks. And so, again, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I am trying to understand, one, how that decision was made, who made it, if not Director Brooks, who, as I understand it, is the director of the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, and I would think would be involved in that decision. And then finally, who else was consulted? Because again, in looking at the statute and in having been there with former Mayor Young when we wrote it, it really wasn't the intent to shortfall, to fill shortfalls within city agencies.
Good morning, Mr. Council President. JD Merrill, Interim Deputy Mayor for Equity, Health, and Human Services. First, thank you for your comments and your leadership on children and family and youth issues in this entire council. I'm happy to try to provide a bit more clarity. So first, I just want to address any sort of insinuation that the mayor's office unilaterally moved anything. Any sort of budget action was approved by the BCYF board. And so I just want to provide some context that you've received in other budget hearings. The city was facing an $85 million budget gap this year, approaching the end of American Rescue Plan Act funding, additional costs from the state, funding uncertainty from the federal government. And we were trying to balance the budget while prioritizing core service delivery and holding harmless any impact to our children and youth, because this is a top priority of the Scott administration. And so ARPA had provided us an opportunity to increase our investment in YouthWorks. We were able to get up to around 8,500 YouthWorks seats. You'll hear more about that tomorrow from MOHS. And keep in mind that the minimum wage also increased to $15 an hour, right? So we were able to have more seats for young people, and we were also able to pay them more. Last year, MOHS provided those slots at a cost of around $21.7 million. So to meet the demand for YouthWorks this year and to maintain that 8,500 seats, we had a shortfall. And so we approached the BCYF board and asked if they would consider investing to make sure that we were able to maintain that level of support for YouthWorks this year, and we're very grateful that they did. And so just want to be really clear that funds for children and youth and funding YouthWorks is investing in children and youth. And we made sure that it aligned with all of the code and with the legislation of the Children and Youth Fund.
Deputy Mayor, look, I appreciate that, and just again want to thank you, because you have been an absolute champion for kids in this city, both as an educator and now in this role. But I'm still confused. So the explanation that the council received at the time was that there was this provision in Council Bill 15-0567, which is the ordinance for the Children and Youth Fund, that, and I already read it, so I'm not going to belabor the point, but it essentially says, except to the extent that federal, state, or private agency funds for those programs or services have since been discontinued, that was the provision that enabled the administration to utilize the fund. What I'm now hearing is that it was done through normal channels, that it was, the administration went before the Youth Fund Board and requested the funds. So which one is correct? And then can you just walk me through what that conversation with the Youth Fund Board looked like, and what the grant application looked like?
Sure. So Faith Leach, City Administrator. So both things can be true. So there should be no confusion. So what we put forward is the language that you just read out, that we worked with the law department. This is not the first time that the City of Baltimore has leveraged this Children and Youth Fund. We've been here before. And given that this specific instance would have, if we did not have these additional funds, then we would have had less young people that were employed that was not going to be an option for this administration. We wanted to have 8,500 young people getting paid $15 an hour, and that is what we did. And so what the deputy mayor will walk through is, and I can have our law department come and they can provide you their analysis as to how we were able to leverage the Children and Youth Fund. But again, this is not the first time that the city has done this. So this shouldn't be a new thing to us that we can leverage the Children and Youth Fund, especially when there is or was significant fund balance. The deputy mayor will walk through the conversation that we had with the board, but we did it both ways. Legally, we can leverage those dollars. But we didn't want to just rely on what we could do legally. We wanted to be good faith partners. And so that meant going to the board, and then the deputy mayor can talk about the conversation with the board.
Thank you, CA Leach. So, as the city administrator said, we went to the board, and our ask of the board was as follows. $3.9 million to YouthWorks to help us maintain this level of investment in summer jobs. And that would be from their operating budget. And then we also requested $1 million for the Mayor's Summer Youth Engagement Strategy from their fund balance, and $2.1 million from the fund balance for the Summer Funding Collaborative. So that would be to continue to fund grants for the summer.
Okay, look, I don't want to monopolize time. I know my colleagues have questions as well. What I would just say that the only memory I have of utilizing youth funds for an administrative purpose was during the pandemic. I believe there was a bill that we all passed and worked on together that I can't remember the exact number, but I want to say it was like $6 million of youth fund funds for feeding, because we're in the middle of a pandemic, and then a $3 million for digital devices and laptops and other things. And I think the justification there was we're in a pandemic and everything was at risk. Our kids were facing inordinate obstacles, both in that their school was closed, that there were issues around food. And so to me, that was like a true emergency. I'm still not clear on what the emergency is here. And again, I'm not gonna argue or disagree. I have an enormous respect for YouthWorks, have advocated for that program. Several of my colleagues on this committee have as well. I just think that whether we are following the letter of the law, I'm not totally clear, but I think the intent of the law was really clear, which is unless there is a true emergency, that we not utilize this pot of money, because I respect YouthWorks. I respect everything this administration is doing. It's why I want to start by thanking the mayor for his 10 toes down, full commitment to our kids. But I also believe really strongly that when we write legislation, that when we, the council and the administration partner, that it's important to acknowledge that there are also community-based organizations, there are groups within our city that had historically been denied funding, and that was supporting those groups, supporting grass-led efforts within our community really was the intent of this legislation. And so if the times have changed, if the funding situation has changed, I would suggest that we as a city revisit the legislation and talk about what's worked, what's not working. But again, it to me is a concern when twice in one summer, twice in the span of a couple months, we saw funds be taken away from the purpose of supporting community-based youth-serving groups. With that, I would love to hear City Administrator, but I want to say thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple of things that we will commit to. So we will get you the legal opinion from the law department that we use to partner with the Children and Youth Fund on this. The other thing too, I want to make sure that we're not using terminology that would not accurately describe what happened. We did not take money from the Children and Youth Fund, nor did we take money from grassroots-based organizations. The Children and Youth Fund is still continuing to grant grassroots organizations funding so that they can support summer programming and year-round programming. That work is continuing. What we approach the Children and Youth Fund to do is to partner with the administration. In the time, and all of this is actually during the pandemic, right? So when you're right, the use of funds, when we leveraged the Children and Youth Funds before, it was during the pandemic. Then we got additional resources during the pandemic that we invested in grassroots organizations as well as into the Youth Works programs. During the pandemic, the wage increased, as Deputy Mayor Merrill said. And so what we were facing this summer is not being able to provide job opportunities. I think it was like 3,500 or 3,000 or 3,500, I think is the number. We'll get you the exact number with the funding that was available because of the fact that the minimum wage increased to $15 an hour. That is not an option. And if the intent of the funds are to support our young people, then making sure that our young people have employment for the summer, making sure that our young people are exposed to careers, making sure that our young people have opportunity so that they are not left without opportunity over the summer. I think that is the intent of dollars that are invested in our young people. These dollars went directly into young people. They're not going into administration. They're going into wages for people that are going to show up here in City Hall, and they're going to intern with people in this building. They're going to be interning and working throughout the summer across our city. And to me, that is the intent, is opportunity for our young people. And there are going to be close to 5,000 young people who would not have had an opportunity had we not partnered with the Children and Youth Fund. And so happy to share the legal opinion and to continue conversations about how we continue to work with the Children and Youth Fund moving forward. But the Scott administration stands firmly on ensuring that 5,000 young people got opportunities this summer.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And again, I will just restate that, I don't think you're going to get any disagreement on the value of YouthWorks. I think it's a phenomenal program, and I think that this council has consistently supported it. And I think Mac and her predecessor, Jason, have done a phenomenal job. I think my question remains, though, is this the best way to fund YouthWorks? And is this the best way to fund any other priority of either the council or the administration? And maybe the answer is yes, but again, having been there when Mayor Young, then City Council President Young, wrote this legislation, I can tell you the priorities of either a mayor or the city council were not the intent of the law. And so I think there is an important conversation for us to have about the youth fund, about its uses, and I look forward to having that one with you. And again, I do appreciate
Thank you.
Appreciate City Administrator, your commitment to our young people as well, as it has been very, very consistent. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. At this moment, I'm going to provide Councilman Parker with a very brief follow-up to Council President Cohen's question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Madam City Administrator. And thank you, Director Larson, for passing along some information relevant to this conversation that we'd requested a few weeks ago. So I'm glad we have it here for this purpose. I just want to note two things. The general fund contribution, which is at issue here based on the law, in fiscal year 2017 was 1.8 million. This year, the general fund contribution, in part because of the increased expenses and also the increased number of young people being served, fiscal year 2017 was only 6,500. This year's 8,500. Even with everything coming from the youth fund, the general fund contribution is still 4.8 million. So I think my read, not a lawyer, not in the legal department, I look forward to reading that thing, but I think the way the law is written, not necessarily the intent, which I appreciate from the council president, I agree with him, but the way the law is written, I think there's room there to say, hey, we were at 1.8 then, now we're at 4.8. Okay, that's higher than even with these extra funds. I would say the numbers I have in front of me for anticipated participants show 7,024, 7,025, and 8,526. I'm just going from this document. And so that feels like not like a maintaining level of service. And I'm glad to see YouthWorks expanded, but this, at least based on these numbers, looks like a significant expansion of YouthWorks. And so I wonder how that interplays with the urgency of creatively finding money from a non-general fund source.
Yes, so Councilman Parker, I may ask if we could defer that question to tomorrow's hearing with the Mayor's Office of Employment Development. I want to give Director Garvin the opportunity to be here and to participate in that conversation with us because she is the subject matter expert on it. And she would be able to, I want to ensure that she is part of the conversation to properly reflect the participation numbers.
I appreciate it. I'll simply close with this. I've been a YouthWorks site supervisor for coming on a decade now. We just got our list of folks for this summer, incredibly excited about it. For as far as I'm concerned, in terms of number of participants and amount of money we put into it, there's no maximum on that, right? We should do everything we can to make sure that young people have this opportunity. I think the critical question is, where do those funds come from, and does the importance of that, of this priority for the administration and for the council, match the way that we're budgeting and making sure that we're putting our dollars, our general fund dollars, our full support as much as possible find that program, even in difficult financial circumstances.
Certainly, and look forward to continuing the conversation on YouthWorks tomorrow afternoon.
Thank you. I first want to start by just saying thank you to all the agencies and partners that we have here today. I want to echo Council President Cohen's sentiments when he says it truly takes a village for all of us to make sure that our young kids, or some of us like to call our babies, are taken care of. And so MOCFS, thank you for all that you do. You are our #1 go-to whenever we have resource fairs. It's like a one-stop shop, and it's really great just to know that we can rely on one office to really take care of a lot of core essential needs of the community. And I know the community appreciates stopping by the table every time. And also many of the CAP centers that you guys have to be there. I'm a big advocate for boots on the ground, not just the song, but like just the literal meaning, like being in community. It's really hard to get people to go downtown to a centralized location, and why should they? If the goal of our city is to make sure that we're uplifting people, the second goal should be meeting them where they are. So thank you. To the Family League, thank you for all the support that you guys are doing, especially with Safe Passage, which is a really critical program, ensuring that kids are making it home. People send their kids to school. We want to make sure that they are making it home, and just for everything that you guys are doing just behind the scenes to uplift and be there fiscally and just in supportive roles. And then for MOAIM, I can't say enough about the work that you guys are doing and will continue to do. Like I've said before in previous hearings, the amount of good that you are doing based on the amount of funding that you're getting, it's amazing. And so I just want to thank you publicly for the work that you do and continue to do, and for not giving up on our young Black boys in Baltimore City, which everyone seems to do. And even if we hear, as City Council President Cohen said, we may be backsliding, I know that you're going to go back out there and give that same love, because we know that some of those kids are some kids that are returning, but we also know that there's a new crop of kids that are going to show up each and every time. And we seem to always, there's a saying, like when a company has a bad product or when a product is not great, they'll go back, they'll think about it, they'll repackage it, and they'll give you the same thing. Sierra Mist is now some Starry Night, and there'll be something else. And it seems like young Black boys are the only thing that we kind of give up on after the first try. And I appreciate you standing in the fight to make sure that a program is repackaged, our message is being repackaged, but the love is always staying consistent. So I just wanted to just say thank you. I have just a few questions this round, and they're mostly towards children and family success. So there's an overall $4.1 million reduction in federal, state, and special grant awards for the agency. So, and it's the bulk of the decline for the community action partnerships or CAP centers. And so with that, how would this impact the delivery of essential services and resources like rental assistance and utility assistance, especially when many residents are relying on those core resources that you're providing?
Thank you. I'm going to start, and then I'm going to pass it to my team members to answer some of those questions as well. So we actually participated in a retreat early in the fall to begin to think about how we could be proactive if we began to see some federal cuts. And so we have actually applied for 2 state grants, the DHCD Community Schools Rental Assistance Grant, to be able to continue to provide rental assistance to our constituents who have youngsters that are attending our community schools. We're just waiting to hear back. We did submit that. And we are in the process this week of also submitting a grant to the Department of Aging for Aging in Place grant. And that's to be able to assist our older adults, really around digital literacy, to be able to support them, as well as being able to go online and support. And to your point, we're trying to reduce barriers by going out more. So we partner a great deal, as I said, with MOCA and with MEMA to go out into the community, because we know there's been barriers with people coming into the CAP Center, so that we're reaching more constituents. But to your point around some possible flat, not necessarily reduction, but also flat grants around our OHEP, I'm going to let Ms. Roger Moore speak directly to that.
Good morning. My name is Elijah Moore. I'm the director of Baltimore City OHEP. And as of right now, our program, we are 200% of the federal poverty line. Right now, we are closely partnering with DHS Secretary Lopez and the acting OHEP director, Courtney Thomas, on getting our constituents' voice heard and their needs heard for our lower grants this year. We did return back to pre-pandemic funding. So we do understand that with the high rise in BGE costs, it's not taking away people's debt. So with that, we are on the local level, we're partnering with DHCD and BGE in educating our constituents in how to make their homes better energy efficient.
Yeah, thank you for that answer, and it's good to know that you guys have some sort of a cavalry coming. Yes, Ms. Whitaker.
In addition, good morning, everybody. I'm Angela Whitaker, and I'm the director for the Baltimore City Community Action Partnerships, the CAP Centers. In addition to what my colleagues lifted up, we've also applied for the Aging in Place grant, but in addition to the digital literacy, a part of what we're looking to do with that grant is to also supplement energy assistance grants for our seniors or older adults who are taking care of like their grandchildren or other young children. And so we also intend to do that with those grant funds should we be awarded those. Also, we've applied for the emergency food grant so that we'll also be able to support with our constituents who are experiencing food insecurity.
And would that be with SNAP or just direct assistance?
Direct assistance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for those answers. Like I said, it's really good to know that the cavalry may be coming, and once they are, please send that information out to the council offices, and we'll be sure to share that with our constituents. I do want to follow up on the CAP centers once again, and happy to know that there may be some relief coming, but I would be remiss, and I think Councilman Burnett, my predecessor, has talked about this. We do not have a CAP center in the Southwest, and living in that area, especially for the folks in Edmondson Village and or along that corridor, in order to get to any of those CAP centers, it takes at least 2 buses. And we know that if folks have to take more than one bus to get anywhere, or if it takes more than 25, 30 minutes to go anywhere, they're not going to do it. And when we have people that need it, but they can't get to it, that is a huge problem. So once again, I'm going to ask, is there a plan to bring a CAP center to Southwest Baltimore, not only for my district, but for Councilman Bullock's district, and even part of Councilwoman Porter's district, because we have one literally everywhere except for that pocket. And I think it is long overdue, something that we need, and something that would be utilized once it's there. And if you need me to partner with you to find one, please let me know. We can talk to the shopping center owners to see if we can find a place there in the future. But something immediate, even if it's a library, please let me know. But do you guys have a plan for putting a CAP center in Southwest Baltimore?
Thank you for that question. So we've had also Councilman Torrance that has come, I think it was like my first day, also came to me and asked that same question. And so what we have been doing, as you stated earlier, we have been, for lack of a better term, doing road trips, going out to the community as much as almost daily. Also partnering with community centers, being there at least one day a week, going to where we know people are, community school engagement meetings, to where families are. Because what we also have heard from our communities is that even when we have CAP centers, not everyone even comes. Even in those communities, it's best to go to where we know people are going to be. And so to answer your question right now, no, we have not thought about a brick and mortar, but to be able to go to where we know people are going to be. So we have partnered very closely, as I said, with the schools in those communities, both the elementary, the K-8, as well as the high schools, as well as working with churches in those areas when they have events, with the council members when they're having events. We go with Ms. Ondoria to the Lunch and Learns. So we're there at the Lunch and Learns. With the community association meetings, we partner and make sure that we're there available to be able to provide resources and supports. But we can also meet with you if you have ideas of where we could be able to be more available for some of your community members as well.
Yes, I would definitely appreciate that, because like I said, it's been long overdue, and maybe there should be some type of rethinking into the way in which we have these CAP centers to make sure we are touching people exactly where they are. When we think about the connection, I automatically think about the commanders meetings, CRC meetings. These are the meetings where like folks are. A lot of our community presidents are going out and they're showing up and they can share that information. But one thing I will know, and I love my community associations, a lot of the times the outreach that goes to community associations don't necessarily apply to those at community associations. So I would love to work with you to figure out like really intentional ways to connect with the folks that need it, even if it's at bus stops, even if it's at like the West Baltimore Marks station. Like these are high areas where folks are using public transportation, and you're catching a swath of everybody, which means you can help anybody. And so I do look forward to that, and I will be back next year asking that same question until I get a different answer. But I definitely appreciate your partnership. Thank you. Next, we have Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, directors, all of you, for all of your work. Director Brooks, I'm so fascinated that you mentioned 3-generation approach. You know where I'm going on this one, because we had talked about when you first came on the job, around the 2-generation approach that when I was at Community Development Network, helped to develop through the statewide initiative, which was basically if someone came into the CAP center, that not only that person would get evaluated for all the benefits, but everybody else in the family. So tell me what 3 generation is, because that would be an exponential way of, really making, it sounds like it would be really making sure that we're meeting not just 2 or 3 needs, but all of the needs. Am I correct in that regard? Yeah.
I'll let Angela start, and then I'll jump in, and then I'll also have Shannon, our Head Start director, jump in.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ramos. That is absolutely correct. I think one of the major feats that we have taken since our leadership for CAP has been to move our services from transactional to transformational. And so we are really working with the entire family when they come into our program. And so it's not just, obviously they come to us in crisis, right? They need rent assistance, energy assistance. And so we work to resolve that immediate concern. But then we also talk to the constituents about what their entire family dynamic looks like. We do an assessment, and then we partner with them to develop goals for that entire family. And so if they have a grandmom living there, granddad, we work to so what goals do they have? How can we assist them? Mom, children. So it's really about impacting that whole entire family so that we're not looking at continuing to service the same constituents over and over again, and we're helping them to develop their own goals. And so we're not developing them for them, but we are supporting them, and then we support them to achieving those goals.
Is this where the whole state CAP centers are going, or this is us being much more innovative like we always are?
So this is us being much more innovative like we always are. The state CAP centers are
still in 2Gen.
Yeah, they are focusing on 2Gen, and so we do participate with the Maryland Community Action Partnership. We have monthly meetings with them, but the focus there is 2Gen. But we recognize that in our day-to-day contact with constituents, almost majority of families consist of 3 generations.
Right, well, but it's also 3-dimensional in terms of not just meeting the immediate need, but it's the family's need. And then it's also saying, well, how can we make sure you don't come back in?
Exactly.
Right, so let's try to resolve the entire T of what's happening as opposed to, just the one, way. So did I explain it properly? Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm Shannon Burrows Campbell. I'm the director of Baltimore City Head Start, and Angela spoke about her process, which really mirrors what Head Start does and has done it for years around the family partnership process, that we engage with the entire family, whether that's mom that presents or we try to engage with dad, grandma, and then the child. And so all of our activities are open to every part of the family, including like if we're offering positive discipline meetings or trainings or workshops or nutrition, everybody. We're trying to engage everybody in that process in the life of their child. It's very intentional, and it is what Head Start is based on.
But it's also much more case management intensive, it sounds like. So do you have the resources that you need to continue this? Because like my colleague was saying, with the federal money and CAP centers and Head Start is mostly federally funded, and you mentioned your plan, so you don't have to go into that, but you're gonna need more resources as this grows, because we also heard from MOHS that, their caseload, for lack of a better term, the people that they're serving has doubled because of the eviction crisis, because of not being able to pay BGE. And I would imagine that yours has also grown as a result. So if you're doing this intensive case management with a growth of the people that you serve, that's intensive and is going to take a lot of people. I'm a big fan of having more social workers. So, if we need more social workers, let's go figure out, well, we do. We have 2 great schools of social work, so let's make it happen.
We do anticipate an increase in our services. And so what we're doing is, or what we have done, we've been very intentional about the partnership. So we have DSS working in all of our sites, and so that and we are steadily increasing that. And so next week, we have an additional one coming to our eastern site, so there'll be 2 on site. We're also partnering with community-based agencies that provide mental health services. You talk about the School of Social Work. All of our case managers has to go through the United Way, University of Maryland School of Social Work case management certification. And so we are being really strategic in how we build our staff up and how we engage others in the community so that we can support not only the constituents that we're currently servicing, but the anticipated increase.
And I'd also want to add that we are also, as we're working with our families, helping them understand the importance of case management. Because as many of you know, when a family comes in and they're in crisis, that's what they want to focus on. They want to focus on, we're here because our electricity is being turned off, or we need assistance with our rental assistance, or we need assistance with our water. And so when a person is coming in crisis, they just want to focus on the crisis. And so our case managers are really intentional with assisting our constituents in that area, and then having conversations about, okay, now let's talk about like how we're not going to hear next. Well, how do we develop a plan? Making sure that they are developing the plan and we are assisting. So I just want to be really clear in naming that with this case management, we're letting the constituent and that family dynamic guide the discussion, and we're there to support.
Yeah, certainly people just want the bill paid and then they're on their way. But obviously there's got to be that follow-up because they may come back. And I think we learned that during the crisis with the rental assistance. We had several repeaters which needed it. I mean, we need to help everybody. It's just a matter of figuring that out. So thank you for developing that. I think that's amazing and happy to help in any way possible. I am not a social worker, however. Although I feel like sometimes all of us end up being social workers. My next question is about again, I think we just want to figure out a little bit more about the rental assistance. Oh no, the Water for All. So Water for All, we're going to have a hearing about it at some point in time, but just wanted to get a better sense of the caseloads, I mean, people are coming in for the water, but then there's also some mechanical issues with the program in terms of it's a one-time discount as opposed to all over, the 12 months. And so I just want to get a better sense of what you're seeing, but also how can we change some of those things, and if there's anything else that you want to make sure is changed as we start to prepare for this hearing, but also think through what's the best way to serve so many people, particularly since I think the needs are going to grow given that the bill is going to get higher.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, good. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the question and interest. I've been with the Water for All program for 2 years. Oh, my name is Penny Lewis, and I manage the Water for All program. I'm very excited to share all of our wins that we've had over the last 2 years, but just to slow down a bit, we've got an associate sitting at all 5 of our CAP centers, and we've cleaned out any backlog that we've had. It's a 90-day program, and we are presently turning everything, applications online and in person in 30 days. All of our elevated phone calls, mayoral concerns are turned within 24 hours, and they're all phone calls. Any constituent that we have that has a hard time getting to our location, we do assist them with various ways to do that, whether that's mobility and or ensuring that they have a family member, friend, or neighbor that can assist them with that transportation. And we've promised them that once they get to us, we will turn that paperwork for them within the day. Some other successes is that 3 years ago, the percentage of people that were renewing in the Water for All program was 3%. 2 years ago, it was 13%, and presently, year to date, we are at 25%. So the word is out. The other value to working at the CAP centers is that we are promoting the Water for All program. So when constituents come in and they sign the log for assistance with rental or eviction, they'll also see that there's water assistance. But you asked some more questions, and I can't remember them.
Well, I'm interested to know a little bit more about, and it may be something that we end up saving for our larger hearing, but just to prepare for it in terms of, the number of people that you're serving, but also, again, this issue of the fact that the credit is one time as opposed to over 12 months. I'd like to make sure that it's over 12 months.
Yes, ma'am, it is presently over 12 months, but to share with you where that came from, approximately 2 years, we had a third-party vendor by the name of Beam, and we stopped that contract with them because we had some concerns. When we were looking for other vendors that we could use, like PNC Bank, and having the meetings with DPW, WACA, BISSET, et cetera, we found out that we could actually do that in-house. So we're now doing it through Workday, and we have the constituent can do a one-time credit and/or multiple payments so that they're paid within the year. And they're always reminded that the program is on a rolling calendar year. So if they apply February 2025, they can reapply February 2026.
Oh, I did not realize that all that is now in Workday. That's actually good, because then it's easier to track.
Yes, it is.
as well.
So all those are credits now to the water bills. There's not a live check going out unless it's someone that's a tenant and they're on a master meter.
Right, I think people prefer the credit on the bill.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do.
Right. Well, we'll take more of this to the next hearing, because I know my colleagues have other questions, but I appreciate your help with that, so that'll help with us.
Very
with
good.
preparing.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work on that. Thank you, Dr. Brooks. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I want to thank, and I know this has been said multiple times during this hearing so far, but I want to thank these three agencies, Dr. Bunley, Tracy Estep, Mr. Mallett with Family League, Dr. Brooks. The work that you all do is the most important work for me within the city. I heard my council president say something that I say, I'm not here without a village. I'm not here without a village. And I know I have 9 nieces and nephews, and I've officially become a great aunt about 6 months ago. But I know I didn't have to birth a child to be a parent. And that's very important. And for everybody to have a village and for every single person to step up for our youth. And I'm just appreciative. I don't make these comments that often during these hearings. I thank y'all, I move on. But I'm appreciative and I'm grateful for the work of each and every agency that's here. Dr. Bunley, I did hear you talk about the work with Sidestep. It is a diversion program. Is that work that you've already been doing? I was listening. But is it work that you've already been doing, or did you say that this was work that you guys were going to start during this summer?
The Sidestep program is in the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. One of the things that the mayor is very clear about is that we have to collaborate. And so we're pushing that idea. So the Sidestep program, they're looking to divert youngsters. We actually do daily programming with young people. And so it just makes logical sense for us to say, okay, if we have these slots for our office particularly, in our office, then we'll take some of those young people. But at the same time, Monzi is programming with us with the other resources that they may have and sending youngsters from the side to Moline through the Sidestep program. They can assist those other youngsters in the office who might need something where Monzi has funds that Moline does not have right now. So we're just collaborating. We're just trying to just push this idea of massive collaboration. So I'm just working with my colleague who has a great idea, but it's functional. We do programmatic stuff with young people.
So have you guys already, I guess what I'm saying is that I know you guys are collaborating. That's what we ask for that all the time. With our agencies collaborate, who collaborate here, we want more collaboration. So I'm happy that your agency is involved. I guess maybe it got lost in there and I didn't pick it up. Have you guys already started engaging with the youth?
We have
Was
not
that-
started
Okay.
to engage with them. We have just had the conversation over the last 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my question.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know we're short on time, so I'm going to save the additional questions for later hearings for other agencies, but I just wanted to know if you guys started engaging yet. And again, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to get to the next question. I know we're short on time, and I still have 2 council people who I want to do my best to get in. Council Member Conway, if we can just possibly just keep it to 1 question. Thank you.
If I could make a brief comment and 2 requests. One, I want to echo the sentiments of the president regarding the youth fund. I feel deeply uncomfortable with the current structure and I think the process. To that effect, of course, the Public Safety and Education, Youth, and Older Adults Committee held a hearing in late April talking about exactly this issue. In that hearing, we got a breakdown of how the money was going to be spent with the youth fund. Before that hearing, we got a number. It was 8 million or 8.5 million. In that hearing, we got a different number. It was 6.4 million. And I believe today it was quoted at 7 million. And so that number's moved a little bit. I want to clarify what exactly the breakdown is for the funding going to Youth Works, to summer youth engagement, and to youth collaboratives.
Sure. So from the fund balance, $1 million for the Mayor Summer Youth Engagement Strategy, 2.1 million for the Summer Funding Collaborative, and 3.9 million for Youth Works.
Got it. And so I think to the line of questioning that we had earlier around how that decision was made, it'd be helpful for me. I mean, of course, the youth fund evaluates applications. Did the administration apply, or was it just a straight request? How did that play out?
We presented before their board. Their board heard our request. The board voted to approve the request to invest in our children and youth in this way.
And is that the same process as anybody else, or?
I'm not familiar.
Okay. I would appreciate if we could get the board meeting minutes for that meeting. I'd be very curious to see how that played out. Once again, I think the piece here is we want to make sure that we have a transparent process. And I agree that we want to make sure we support young people through Youth Works. I think we all agree that it's a worthwhile program. It's an excellent program. I think a national leader in many ways. I just want to make sure that we are thoughtful about the precedent that we set by rating this fund in order to support it.
I think we need to be careful about language.
I'll rephrase it.
Yeah, please rephrase it.
By using this fund to support a program that the city regularly runs. And so I want to be very careful, like with my language and likewise with how we tap into that fund, because we do set a precedent for future mayors to do the very same thing. And I know we all have our heart in the right place here. So I want to make sure that we don't set a precedent that we wouldn't want to be replicated in the future. I'll move on to the next thing.
Unfortunately, we got one last person. I want to make sure that Councilman Park is able to get this additional question, and if that's still.
This is a very direct question. It takes
Okay,
10
then
seconds.
thank you.
So it's just a question about the Safe Passage program. Dr. Brooks, it's been a phenomenal program. It's worked really well in my district. I wanted to know if there were any intentions to either expand or move based on need.
So thank you. So as I stated earlier, it's a collaborative with BPD and City School Police. We are looking at end-of-year data. We are also looking at, we know that Baltimore City College is going to be in a swing space next year. So I, along with some other team members, are going to be doing a ride-along. This year, I won't be jumping out of that ride-along, but we are doing a ride-along just to look at that space to possibly expand to that area to ensure that young people continue to feel, and the community, because again, it's not about policing young people, but making sure that the community continues to feel safe and young people feel safe in their space as well. So if there is, we're looking at expanding possibly to that area.
I appreciate it. And thank you, Madam Chair, for letting me ask the question. I think that program has been an example of a success that we've learned through experimenting, and I would certainly love to see more schools where necessary take advantage of it. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very briefly, to African-American male engagement, Dr. Bunley, a young person from our community, from our church and from our neighborhood, Dijon Matthews, has been a youth leader with you all, had a great experience as graduating high school this week. And so just want to thank you for all the work that you do for him and for all the other young people in our community. So I wanted to name that in particular. His mom was just texting me yesterday, so I had to get his name in here. For Dr. Brooks and Family Success, as we've talked about before, I'm an alumnus, just a summer internship fellowship, an alumnus of the Community Action Program. Really appreciate the work you all are doing around the city. I'm grateful that we do have a center close to where we are in Highlandtown. Deeply concerned, echoing my colleagues' concern about what the cut in state funding in particular means for us. Would love to have a further conversation about practically what that means day to day in the community. I appreciate you all being creative about finding other funding streams, but recognize that it's tough when you're so dependent upon state and federal funds. The question is for Family League. I want to thank Director Larson for passing along some clarifying information late last week when this came up, when we took notice of it in another presentation. But for out of school time, there's a big shift, a decrease in funding through you all, and Director Larson said a significant increase on the city schools side. It's kind of like a passing over of some responsibilities for out of school time for community schools, if this makes sense. And so based on Director Larson's answer, I'm pretty confident the money is flowing the right way, but can you just put a narrative to that shift just so we understand not only that money is moving from column A to column B, but what's happening with that?
Sure. Thank you for that question, Councilman. So a couple of years ago, I guess when the blueprint first went into implementation, so you have the Concentrations of Poverty program that's within the Maryland's blueprint for Maryland's future. So essentially that is supporting in terms of any school that reaches a certain threshold when it comes to free and reduced price meals. And essentially that school becomes a community school. And so you have the investment of those state funds as well as in terms of the administration of community schools to now be handled by that local school district. So we work closely with Dr. Brooks as well as the city schools in terms of, one, how do we utilize our investment that used to go to supporting community school coordinator salaries from the Mayor and City Council to now focus in terms of out of school time programming. So not being duplicative or supplanting state funds, but how can we leverage it in any better? And so that's when I mentioned earlier that we were able to expand from 43 out of school time sites to now 69.
Thank you so much for that explanation, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you all for joining. Again, just thank you all for the work that you do every day. Again, like we've all stated, we appreciate you, and we're going to recess this hearing for a few minutes until we get to our next agency.